My name is Erica Carrillo, and I'm in the Master's of Education Instructional Technology program at Kennesaw State University. My capstone project title is Using Alice to Introduce Basic Computer Programming. The problems and needs that I found at Woodstock High School is that there's a need to increase student interest and enjoyment of computer programming, to increase minority and female participation in computer programming, to increase computer science pathway completion, and to incorporate pair programming to increase enjoyment and reduce frustration. The capstone project plan was to be completed fall semester 2015. The capstone project was completed in a computer science principal course of 12 students, 1 female, 11 males. In the first 9 weeks, Alice and pencil code would be introduced. In the second 9 weeks, Python programming. It was going to initially be Java programming, but Python programming was introduced. The evaluation plan. Observation was used as a primary means to determine the comfort level and engagement in the programming unit because data was not collected. If data collected, students would have participated in 3 surveys: pre-survey, a middle after Alice and pencil code, so after drag and drop was completed, and then a post after Python was completed. Rubrics were utilized with all programming projects. So for every task they had a rubric that accompanied it. There was also a 3-part assessment for the pencil code unit. There was a pair project, an individual project, and a written test. Implementation occurred in the computer science principles course with 1 female and 11 males. First, Alice programming was introduced as planned. Students visited Duke University's Alice tutorial websites, which provided videos as well as written tutorials for varying levels. This allowed student differentiation based on the ability level or experience. Students completed a final project based on ability and comfort that encompassed specific criteria. Upon completion of the Alice project, students explored pencil code. Some students chose to immediately transition to syntax, while other students continued with visual block programming. Students completed individual as well as pair programming activities. The assessment for this unit involved a 3-part assessment that included pair programming assessment, individual programming assessment, and then a traditional pen and paper test. I chose this approach to see if performance would be similar between the individual and pair programming, and it was. The final programming language chosen was Python due to the curriculum of the computer science pathway. Students in 3rd year computer science learned Java the entire school year. Also, when I spoke with the 3rd year instructor, he recommended Python because it's the language of choice at the university level and students needed exposure. To allow differentiation, students either completed the Python unit using traditional Python format in an online tutorial and text, learning Python the hard way, or utilized EarSketch, a program that allows students to compose music while learning Python programming language. Both groups of students were assessed through written assessments as well as through a final programming project. Obstacles and barriers. The first obstacle and barrier, which was a huge one, was the inability for me to get all programming needed downloaded by the technology specialist. This caused a lot of frustration with some of my students. And then also, I initially felt that the timeline, we had the entire year to complete the capstone, but then I later found out that it needed to be completed by the end of fall semester. So I had to quickly adjust my entire timeline that I had initially posed at the beginning of this whole capstone proposal. Of students eligible to proceed to Computer Science A, 7 of the 8 will proceed, including the African American female and the Latin American male. This to me is a huge success. The students who were not eligible were seniors. Also, student enjoyment and reduction in frustration was evident when they reached the Python programming because students were easily able to complete tasks assigned. For my reflection, Standard 1 the visionary leadership was prevalent throughout the entire capstone project. I was able to demonstrate knowledge to inspire and lead the development and implementation of a computer programming course that utilized drag and drop programming to introduce programming skills. This required me to understand the shared vision that the school wanted to increase participation in computer programming courses while also increasing the diversity of the class population. Knowledge of strategic planning was also necessary in order to design, develop, implement, communicate, and evaluate the capstone project. Standard 2, teaching, learning, and assessment required me to demonstrate knowledge of skills and dispositions to effectively integrate technology into my own teaching practice and to collaboratively plan with and assist other educators in utilizing technology to improve teaching, learning, and assessment. I had to first research and determine the best way to teach programming and develop the skills necessary to use that programming language. Students were presented with authentic learning experiences that allowed differentiation based on prior knowledge. With the ALICE program, students created games or stories by choosing an appropriate level activity and tutorial in the lessons. This allowed students to work at his or her level to achieve the specified programming requirements so that the candidate could assess the projects. Standard 3, digital learning environments. This allowed me the opportunity to create, support, and manage effective digital learning environments. Throughout this capstone project, students had a specific protocol when troubleshooting his or her program. Students were to first attempt to solve the problem themselves, next ask a peer, and finally, after all options were exhausted, they would reach out to me. This allows students to work independently and also collaborate with peers when problem solving. This also helped me develop the skills to determine the best tools and resources to utilize throughout the course. This, like I said, I initially planned to only use ALICE, but then later felt that pencil code allowed a transition between drag and drop and traditional programming languages, such as Python. And also, after speaking with a computer science instructor, I decided that Java should not be a primary focus in my courses because they spend the entire third year using that language. Standard 4, digital citizenship and responsibility. This allowed me the opportunity to demonstrate knowledge, skills, and dispositions to model and promote digital citizenship and responsibility. I was able to demonstrate knowledge in that I knew that some students in the course did not have computer access at home, so computer access was made available for students before and after school, as well as during lunch periods. Students also were aware of the consequences of copying and pasting code from internet resources and submitting this as their own work. Some recommendations I would give would be that it's important to make the course fun and interactive. I found that all students do not succeed or like to learn programming in the same way. There are so many ways to teach programming and so many languages that there should be no limit. When I introduced Python, I chose to give students a choice in the means they reached the goal. Some students opted to go the traditional route using an online ebook and modules to learn the foundation, where another group of students chose to use EarSketch, which is a program that allows students to learn the basics of Python by composing music. Both groups, upon completion of their choice, were able to successfully complete the task and assessment for the Python language. When assessing students, I also feel it's important to have a collaborative portion. This helps to alleviate some of the anxiety, and it does support the development of the 21st learner. I would also recommend that educators continue to research and find new tools and programming language activities that support your goals. For me, I had the twofold goal of recruiting and retaining a diverse student population in computer science courses in the completion of the computer science pathways. And I chose to achieve this by making it fun and interactive, differentiating, having collaborative assessments, and using tools out there and making adjustments as I needed to. Copyright acknowledgments would be ALICE 2.2 lessons, ALICE programming, pencil code programming online guide, Python programming, learn Python the hard way, EarSketch, and then the PSC instructional technology standards and ITSE standards.